O, teraz działa. Czekamy, rozumiem, na połączenie streamingowe jeszcze.
We are waiting for the streaming connection still.
I jeszcze tylko potwierdzę, czy mamy połączenie.
Yes, I can see that Mr. Turk is with us.
Szanowni Państwo,
Ladies and
jest mi
gentlemen,
niezmiernie
I am
miło
very
powitać
glad
Państwa
to
na
welcome you at
dyskusji
the discussion
dotyczącej wpływu wojny w
regarding the
Ukrainie
impact of the
na
Ukrainian
sektor
war
energetyczny.
on the
Jest to
energy
temat,
sector.
który nie jest nowy, ponieważ sektor energetyczny stanowi zarówno cel ataków rosyjskich od początku wojny, ale również narzędzie do jej prowadzenia. Po doświadczeniach ostatnich miesięcy pora na głębszą refleksję, czego dowiedzieliśmy się o odporności naszych systemów energetycznych, jakie działania podjęliśmy i jakie działania podjąć niezwłocznie musimy. Nie porzucamy też nadziei, że wojna niebawem dobiegnie końca. Wtedy otworzy się przed nami cała skala wyzwań związana z odbudową Ukrainy i już musimy myśleć, jak do tej odbudowy się przygotować. Jak powinny być w nią zaangażowane poszczególne państwa, instytucje międzynarodowe czy sektor firm energetycznych. Dlatego właśnie w gronie łączącym te obszary się dzisiaj spotykamy. Szanowni Państwo, chciałbym przedstawić uczestników dzisiejszej dyskusji. Są z nami pani Anna Moskwa, minister klimatu i środowiska Pan German Galuszenko,
Minister of Energy of Ukraine.
Pan David Turk,
the Deputy Secretary for Energy in the United States.
Dr.
Fatih Birol, Executive Director of International Energy Agency.
Oraz Tomasz Stępień,
President, CEO of Gas System Company.
Chciałbym teraz otworzyć pierwszą
I would like to open the first part of the debate, and I would like to ask the panelists for 3-minute introductory talks. And please keep the time, and I would like to ask Madam Anna Moskwa, the Minister of Climate and Environment, to take the floor as the first panelist. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My dear friends and all the guests, and I am very happy that today we can see each other and talk, and I am very glad that with Mr. Executive Director we have this opportunity to meet not only, me and him, but also you can see Mr. Executive Director. So thank you very much for being so open to this meeting and for this form of organizing this meeting. And we are meeting today for a very important reason. Mr. Minister and Mr. Director came here for this reason, that Ukraine today became the association member of the International Energy Agency, and this is one of the things that has happened. This is the impact of the war, and normally this procedure will last longer, but it was the fast track procedure, and today Ukraine is the association member and can use all the benefits that the International Energy Agency can offer, and also the family of countries that constitute the agency. So coming back to the topic of today, probably a lot has been said over the recent months, how the war changed the energy situation in Poland and also in Europe, and also globally speaking. I would like to say maybe about my hopes, how this situation may evolve and change, and what will happen after the war and what will stay with us. As of today, this European phenomenon is that each country has completely different situation, transformation path, safety energy path, own instruments for securing the energy safety, and the war shows different infrastructure, different supplies. Some countries they cope with this energy safety, and they're trying to build the infrastructure and to ensure the energy safety. And so I think that we should understand different situations of the countries. Poland needs this for its own transformation plan, and so that this understanding goes both ways, because today we expect that we will be loyal, that we will show understanding, and that's obvious, but I hope that it will also be during the war and after the war, especially as for the European Union, also that the European Union will understand our specific situation and also our specific path on the energy transformation, in the energy transformation process. Thank you very much, Madam Minister. I would like to give the floor now to Mr. German Galushenko, Minister of Energy in Ukraine.
Hello to everyone. So that is just several pictures from what now is in Ukraine. That is the real story of a real country, real people. And really what we are trying to do today, we are trying to repair as quickly as we can. And that is the first track. So of course we have big plans, we have strategies, but today we need to return people home, and we need to rebuild quickly, repair, to supply electricity and gas. So there are some figures that today we already repair up to 5.6 million households with electricity. It's like one country, like Finland. So, and of course that is a huge work. It's very dangerous work. Unfortunately, we have a lot of losses also in the staff of energy sector, because they're repairing during missiles attack, during the shelling and everything. But that is just one part of the story of today Ukraine, where we need to do quickly and to repair, to provide it the supply of electricity and gas to people. From the other side, we understand that we have another winter, and we discussed this, and all what Russians did with gas, coal, with everything they did before. I mean, that is also the energy war, and it is challenges which we need to find the solution altogether. How to fight against this blackmailing, against this aggression on gas supplying issue. I don't want to go into figures, so it's everyone knows how they decrease the level of supply. And for instance, just to give you one figure, that today they supply through Ukrainian pipe only around 44 million per day, but even guaranteed contracted volumes is 1.9. So they can do this. They could give gas to Europe, but they didn't, and that is also obvious. And the third track for us is what we said, that is recovery, that is a huge rebuilding and recovery of Ukrainian energy system. And we really want to use the innovations, we want to use the modern technology. We do not want to use or to recover the old, let's say, thermal generation as it was. And of course, we really think on new technology, of new possibilities of generation. We talk about hydrogen, green energy, and everything which is future. But these three tracks, of course, we should think about all of them right now. Thank you.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. So after listening to the Minister of Poland and Minister of Energy, now we have Mr. Turk, who will give his address to us. I will give the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Matush, and it's just a pleasure to be with you all. Virtually, unfortunately, I wish I was there with you all in person and not just a disembodied head hovering over everyone there, but it's terrific to be part of this terrific panel, outstanding panel. And let me just start with three special thanks that I think are due as we begin this discussion. First and foremost, to Minister Kalashenko, to your deputy, who I've gotten to know quite well, to your full team, just a huge thanks for your phenomenal leadership, for the partnership. We're happy, we're pleased, we're honored, frankly, that we've been able to partner and do whatever we can from the U.S. and the U.S. Department of Energy in particular. And a real special thanks, and I think the video you just showed, Minister Galashenko, really underscores this, just the truly heroic efforts of Ukrainian energy workers, whether public, private, in incredibly challenging circumstances, making sure that the lights are on, making sure that the economy can go forward as best as can. Truly heroic. So just wanted to put that in unimaginable circumstances. Secondly, a special thanks to our host, to Minister Moskova in particular. Phenomenal leadership from your end, just a steadfast partner with Ukraine, such an important leader, not only in Europe, but a leader in the IEA, the International Energy Agency, in the world. And I've really, in particular, enjoyed the partnership, enjoyed the opportunity to work hand in hand, Minister, with you, with your phenomenal team on all of the challenges that we're facing. And then a third special thanks to the International Energy Agency, to Dr. Fatih Birol, who's a mentor and friend for many years, having worked at the International Energy Agency and served as Fatih's deputy, but to the other colleagues in the IEA, which is why it's so exciting. And again, thanks for Polish leadership and personal leadership from Minister Moskova, to celebrate and warmly welcome Ukraine into the IEA family. This is a truly historic milestone, I'd say, and done in an incredible short amount of time. For all the IEA's phenomenal data, for all of their unparalleled expertise, analysis, one of the true attributes, I think, of the IEA, certainly under Dr. Fatih Birol's leadership, is the nimbleness of the IEA to move quickly in this association partnership, welcoming Ukraine into the IEA family, happened in an incredibly short amount of time, and I think there's huge benefits for everyone involved in that. And I look in particular at both the immediate, but also as we look to the future as well. On the immediate, there's no doubt that there are further challenges to come as we all support Ukraine, as we all do whatever we can from our respective ends. From the U.S. side, from the U.S. Department of Energy, again, we're honored to be able to help work hand in hand with our Ukrainian colleagues. We've got $30 million U.S. dollars of emergency funding to help Ukraine's full grid integration with ENTSO-E in Europe's grid, to make sure that Ukraine gets benefits from that. But what we're seeing is the exportation of energy, electricity from Ukraine in a time of war to neighbors. Incredibly exciting. And whatever we can to do to help on the immediate challenges, the physical challenges, the cyber challenges, we're there in hand with our national labs working forward on that. But then also looking to the future, Minister Galashenko, as you said so, and Minister Moskova as well, looking to the future as we look to the end of this war,
helping Ukraine, helping the Ukrainians, helping Minister Galashenko reconstruct the energy infrastructure, but not only doing it in a way that it was before, but looking to the future. I'm firmly convinced Ukraine can be such a leader on a variety of clean energy technologies going forward. Such an example, an exemplar for all of us, not only in Europe, but around the world. So we in the US look incredibly excited upon those days that we can build to the future, build to the clean energy infrastructure that not only will benefit Ukraine, benefit Ukrainians, but benefit everyone in Europe, benefit everyone in the world. So we stand ready to partner with Ukraine, with Poland, with other countries in the region, with the IEA under Dr. Fatih Birol's incredible leadership going forward. So again, thanks for the invitation to be able to at least virtually participate with you all.
Dziękuję, panie sekretarzu. Porzućmy na chwilę sektor publiczny i posłuchajmy głosu.
We can listen to the international institutions, International Energy Agency. Mr. Director, could you please give a short address to the panelists?
First of all, Madam Minister, may I thank you once again for hosting us here for this historic day, as Deputy Secretary Turk just mentioned, and also to your government for your strong, determined support for Ukraine and for your personal leadership, Madam Minister. Thank you very much. And today is a historic day for us because Ukraine joined the International Energy Agency family. Mr. Minister, this is a great honor for me as the head of the IEA, great honor for my colleagues at the IEA. We are about 330 people. They were all watching the ceremony in the morning. They're all very, very happy. They asked me to convey you their best regards, and it's a great honor for us. And I can tell you, with Ukraine, we are much more stronger now. We feel much stronger. So, dear colleagues, I believe we are in the middle of the first truly global energy crisis in terms of its depth and in terms of its complexity. It is, when we look at the past, in 1970s, we had oil crisis, but it was only oil. And now, it is oil, gas, coal, electricity, and the reason is very simple. As of 23rd of February, Russia was the #1 oil exporter of the world, #1 natural gas exporter of the world, a major player in the coal markets. And now, after the invasion, driven by Russia's invasion, we are seeing energy security becoming a top priority for almost all countries around the world. And our analysis show that the best way to address our current energy security concerns, the current global energy crisis, goes through international cooperation and solidarity. You mentioned this, Mr. Minister, several times, the issue of solidarity, and solidarity with Ukraine, solidarity with the entire world, vis-à-vis the country who aggress Ukraine. In these terms, I think we have to be careful that we need to take some immediate measures in order to address the current problem, but at the same time we have to think beyond the crisis. As I said, we are going to have a very difficult winter, but after the winter comes the spring, and prepare Ukraine and the rest of the world for the spring with clean, advanced technologies. And Mr. Minister, once again, we are ready to support you today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. And we are honored once again to have Ukraine as part of the International Energy Agency family. You know that you have an additional door to knock on when you come to Paris. You know that you have a new telephone number you can call 24/7, as Mr. Turk knows. And you are aware that when I come to Kiev next time, you promised me to a wonderful cafe together and discuss these issues. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, to be a part of our family. It's a great honor for me and for the International Energy Agency. Thank you.
Dziękuję bardzo, panie dyrektorze. I wreszcie przejdźmy do perspektywy samego sektora.
So let us move to the perspective of the energy sector itself. So here I would like to ask for contribution, Mr. Stanislavski, CEO of Gas System. Thank you very much for the invitation to take part in this panel. I have the pleasure or no pleasure of representing the gas sector, which is a very hot sector in Poland, in Europe, and perhaps as we started this panel, I will also start by saying what we've managed to do. I remember, because I've been working on natural gas at the end of 2005, it was late autumn, early winter, and it was a harsh winter. And the first task that we had resulted from the fact that the Gazprom cut off its supplies, and the supplies that it cut off ran exactly through Ukraine, and on the Polish-Ukrainian border the pressure fell, and we had this emergency management situation. So it immediately tested our crisis management tools in Poland, and at that time we coped with the crisis, but certain conclusions could be drawn from the crisis. Poland, ever since, Poland has done a lot as regards tasks to prepare for crises, insisting that crisis consisting in cut-off supplies from the east. And as an aftermath of this crisis, Poland joined the International Energy Agency, and we also dusted off and improved the crisis management procedures. We adopted a bill following the strategic stocks, reserve stocks of the country. And this bill was not very estimated in the European Union at that time. You would say that this was an exaggeration to introduce such bills. But time has shown that everyone is now thinking about such tools. At that time, too, we had this idea coming out from Poland of energy solidarity, and it was presented in Brussels at its forum. And this idea come back today, and this the fact that we're here at this panel, and also the presence of the Ukrainian minister and the head of the agency and representative of the EU's government. Exactly, these people in those places understood perfectly well what a crisis, energy crisis, oil crisis could be like. And even at that time, there was large cooperation, and Ukraine is the first one in the region to become independent of the Russian gas. Seems paradoxical, but it did happen so. We helped them very much with the gas sector reforms as a company, following the reforms in the European Union. And finally, Poland, since 2016, Poland has invested more than $5 billion in the development of the gas infrastructure, and this made us permanently independent of Eastern supplies. So can one prepare for a crisis? Yes, you can if you have a lot of time. We had some time, and now time will tell how Europe is prepared for the crisis. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. So we listened to all the panelists who laid some foundation for the discussion. And I said before, I would like you to ask questions, to be able to ask questions. Perhaps you have come here to ask questions, and perhaps questions arise when you listen. So perhaps I'll be the first one to make the first round of questions to our panelists. This time I would like to start with the question to Director Birol. Director, your statement was very well received, that we expect to have a gas sector soon. So you said this was the first global energy sector. You also mentioned that the agency has prepared a 10-point plan that Europe should implement. My question is, what, in your opinion, international institutions, particularly the EU, should do to the greater extent or to the lesser extent so as to prepare for the winter?
So thank you very much. So we have to do, we have 10-point plan. We have, if I can categorize, we have 3 things to do. One, to replace the Russian gas as much as we can from other countries. We have seen Norway, Azerbaijan, North Africa, and big time US LNG came to help, and we are seeing that they are providing maximum what they can. It is very good news, and we have a good response to that. But this is not enough. Second, we have to find ways to replace gas use with other energy sources. This can be cutting the red tape in many cases with renewable energies. This can be, as we have again suggested for the countries who wanted to phase out nuclear power plants, to extend, prolong this and postpone the phase out. And this can be, in some cases, as an emergency measure, making use of coal to replace gas there. This is the second category. Third one is on the demand side. We have to find ways to reduce gas use. This can go from, I was discussing with Madam Minister, installing heat pumps to some behavioral changes. For example, in Europe, if we can reduce the thermostat only 2 degrees Celsius lower, instead of 21 degrees to, for example, 19 degrees, the amount of gas we will save will be about 20 BCM, which is equal to the flow of Nord Stream 1. Just, it's a big amount. So we have these 3 important jobs, and I believe we might have lost some time in the last 4 months because we have to build our gas storage level higher. In our view, it needs to come around 90% to be on the safe side. We are much lower than that. And the earlier we move, the less drastic measures we have to take. So it is the high time now, in my view, to prepare us for winter so that we don't need to take much more drastic measures. But in my view, Europe should have a coordinated emergency plan for winter.
Dziękuję bardzo, panie dyrektorze.
Thank you very much, Director. Now I would like to ask a similar part of the question, Mr. Gabushenko. As regards, in your opinion, what could international institutions do to prepare better for the coming year, perhaps more broadly? And also congratulating you signing the accession document. I would like to ask you, what then? Given that you have acquired a strong family, so what then?
Thank you, and really I want to add to this topic. So everyone should understand that this is probably the last winter when the Russians could push us on gas issue. And of course they would use this on maximum level. Don't expect that tomorrow, let's say, someone is wake up and said, okay, so let's fill in the pipes with the gas and let's the prices go lower. And so we need to think on some complex issue, of course. one of the issue that today, selling less, Russians get more money. And that is also the question of price. And there are some solutions, probably it could be price caps. No matter, I'm not in details now. But so we need to stop them to have this possibility to earn more money, selling less gas. And that is one point. Another point, I mean, from the Ukrainian point of view, so we already told this with our partners that we have the biggest storages, gas storages in Europe. So please use our storages. They're quite safe. They're in the west part of Ukraine. And so you could store gas in Ukrainian storages. Even commercially, it costs less than if you compare it to European prices. But you have no face another problem when a lot of storages are controlled in Europe, controlled by Russians. That is also some kind of challenging. I mean, when you store the gas in Russian storages, even in Europe. The third point I want to raise is it was already mentioned that the possibility to export electricity from Ukraine. Don't lose this possibility right now. So we have a profit set in our energy system. We have synchronized energy system. Technically, today we could export something around 1,700 megawatts, but we export only 100. Probably tomorrow we would get another decision on another 100 more, but we could give more electricity. And this is, for us, of course, it's, I think, and for us and for Europe, that's win-win situation when we have cheap prices, so, and we sell to European countries and get money to Ukraine, which is also very important for support of our, and financial support of our energy system, because of also damages, because of drop of consumption, and the generation company now face a lot of financial difficulties in Ukraine. And from the other hand, so you substitute Russian gas and coal, so you can just use Ukrainian electricity. I think we should think on this point very carefully. I mean, because I understand there is some technical issue, but even before the synchronization, we have the possibility to import or to export, sorry, up to 800 megawatts, even without synchronization. So we should more carefully look to this, because this is like, I think, in mutual interest. And of course, very important, coming back to, I want to repeat this word again, that is solidarity, because what Russians did, they're trying to push us separately. I mean, that's what they did. I mean, so they use the gas to divide us. I mean, okay, you want cheap gas, you would give some discount, so please receive gas, but then you should tell something which is not in the line of joint policy of EU. And that's, they know this, and sorry, it works. It works. And our task is not just to stop this possibility to blackmail, to manipulate, to push countries to follow some, let's say, Russian narratives. That's why I think that is very important. It gives just only all together we could win this war, this energy war with Russia, and just put the end on these possibilities for them. Thank you.
Dziękuję, panie ministrze.
Thank you very much, Minister. I would like to move with a question to President Stupień. For many years, gas system has been developing its gas infrastructure. I would like to look at the prospects of these investments that are being implemented, because a lot is said about decarbonized gas, about renewables, renewable additives to gas. How do you look at this from the point of view of large investments that the gas system is now implementing? It is going very far beyond into the future. It is a paradoxical situation now, because for 30 years we've been coping with the inability to implement the diversification strategy, and now we are at the final stage of the diversification process, and we are now having this conversation that the gas is or was something that was not very popular energy carrier, but these times show that the absence of this gas is very painful. Gas investments can be used for 20 or 50 years because this is the technical design period. And beyond that period too, and how the situation will evolve, we will see, of course. Poland is in a good position in the circumstances because given our economy and the number of our population, we don't use so much gas. In Europe, the factor, it is about 1,000 cubic meters per 1 million inhabitants. That's the average, and we have 20 billion in the record year, and this year we'll have much less given the situation that we have. Poland has used much less gas. In technical terms, of course, it's possible to use the infrastructure for different mixtures, for different other things. My question is, where will Poland get its energy in, let's say, 10, 20, 30 or 50 years? And this is a huge challenge because we have to look at this challenge comprehensively. And we do not want us to land in a situation where we enter into another energy crisis because we fail to make sure that our solution is comprehensive. So we can see this across our western border. This was a strategic dead-end alley because at one point in time, Germany would go away from natural gas, from nuclear power, and wishing to use weather-dependent resources and gas from Russia. And it turned out to be a very serious problem. We don't have this problem. Nevertheless, natural gas plays a very large role for the economy, for example, as a raw material for the chemical industry. And the quantity of gas that is used in Poland can be used for a long, long time until we have a situation in place where the energy transition can be implemented in a way that is safe and economically viable. So our gas system is prepared from now, in fact, since April, because we have not been receiving any gas from since April. So it came half a year earlier than we planned. So we are immune to that, and it is our actions are so planned that we are ready to become to require gas for decades of years to come. So whether the size of this gas to be handled by the system depends on how much it is needed.
Dziękuję serdecznie.
Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary Turk will have to leave us just before 6 p.m. So now question to you directly. So Mr. Secretary, there's a lot being said about the rupture of supply chains in the world and also in relation to the consequences of the war in Ukraine. I would like to ask you how the United States or you, how do you see those changes? What is your approach to them? How are you preparing for the consequences of these breaking supply chains and your export capacity too? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the question. And I'd like to start where Minister Galashenko ended and really highlight the importance of solidarity. And Dr. Birol spoke about solidarity. All of our panelists are speaking about solidarity. And I think that's the way to think about the shared energy security challenges and the decarbonization challenges in front of us. If we don't have solidarity, if we're not supporting each other, if we're not fully, maximally utilizing incredible institutions like the International Energy Agency, we're just not going to succeed. And this solidarity is not only important today, important tomorrow, and important well into the future as well. So from the United States side, let me give you 4 particulars of what we're trying to do and how we can be a helpful partner from our end. One, doing everything we can, again, first and foremost for our Ukrainian colleagues and supporting the physical security, supporting the cyber security, doing everything that we possibly can from our end to support. Secondly, on natural gas, we're doing everything we can from the United States side through our LNG, through our liquefied natural gas. We're now, so far this year, approximately 70% of our significant amount of LNG exports have gone to Europe. We're literally exporting every single molecule of natural gas where the plants currently exist to liquefy it. And there are some additional plants that will be coming online over the coming months and coming years. And certainly want to underscore the terrific analysis that the International Energy Agency did, their 10-point plan, focusing on other measures, a whole range of measures for Europe in this time of challenge with natural gas and this particular winter. And we're trying to do everything we can to work with Europe, work with not only folks in Brussels, but throughout Europe on that, what could be, as Fatih said, a challenging winter. And then on the oil side, again, showing solidarity, showing international cooperation. We were very pleased to be working hand in hand with Minister Moskwa, ministers from around the world through the International Energy Agency for the largest releases of our strategic petroleum reserves around the world that's ever happened since the creation of the IEA. And we were more than happy to be part of that, again, working hand in hand. We feel like that historically large release of our strategic petroleum reserves from the US alone, that's 1 million barrels a day coming out of our strategic petroleum reserves. That volume, not only day to day, but over a prolonged period of time, we hope has been a calming mechanism, a calming influence on global markets. And we're looking at a whole range of other levers that can be helpful on this, including a so-called price cap or price exclusion that we're working with countries around the world on right now. And then the fourth piece, of course, is focusing and doubling down, I'd say tripling down, quadrupling down on the clean energy transition. If we had even more clean hydrogen in Europe and around the world, if we had even more offshore wind, if we had even more battery storage, if we had even more solar PV, if we had even more geothermal, if we had even more nuclear and advanced nuclear, the world would be much better off, not only from a decarbonization perspective, but from an energy security perspective. So we need to double down, triple down, quadruple down on the clean energy transition and the revolution. Do everything we can, near term, medium term, and longer term. And we think that's beneficial. Again, working hand in hand with Ukraine, with Poland, with countries in Europe, with countries around the world, with a true solidarity today, tomorrow, and well into the future.
Dziękuję panie sekretarzu i mając świadomość, że ma pan inne wydarzenia, w których ma pan uczestniczyć, dziękuję bardzo serdecznie za dzisiejszy udział i będę przechodził do kolejnych pytań, ale w dowolnym momencie proszę się rozłączyć. Bardzo dziękujemy. I pytanie moje ostatnie do pani minister, ponieważ myślę, że wszyscy bylibyśmy zainteresowani usłyszeniem, jak według pani wojna w Ukrainie zweryfikowała odporność naszych systemów energetycznych i trochę pod takim kątem, bo mówimy o rodzinie, mówimy o tym, że chcemy sobie pomagać, to jakimi doświadczeniami w zakresie rozwoju rynków i bezpieczeństwa energetycznego Polska może się podzielić z innymi krajami?
Myślę, że wszyscy spotkamy się tutaj na wiosnę. Pan dyrektor kilkukrotnie wspominał, będziemy mogli zweryfikować, jak sobie wszyscy daliśmy radę. Jeżeli chodzi o gaz, energię, ciepło i te wszystkie wyzwania, które przed nami stoją, tą przewagę, którą mamy na pewno jako Polska, to gotową infrastrukturę. I to jest coś, czego wiele państwa dzisiaj nie jest w stanie zrobić z minuty na minutę. Więc jeżeli byśmy mieli się dzielić tym doświadczeniem, to na pewno to, co nam pomaga w polityce energetycznej, to taka maksyma żadnych gwałtownych ruchów. Bardzo konsekwentnie, stabilnie te przyjęte plany, które zostały przyjęte przez lata, realizowaliśmy. Stąd też dzisiaj możemy powiedzieć, że jesteśmy przygotowani, jesteśmy odporni. I tutaj nawiązując też do tego, co pan prezes mówił, ta sytuacja nie wywołuje też zatrzymania inwestycji gazowych, które rozpoczęliśmy. Zależy nam na pełnej dywersyfikacji i jak najwięcej źródeł, jak najwięcej wejść do systemu, w pełni stabilna, przygotowana infrastruktura i konsekwencja. Tutaj paradoksalnie ta sytuacja wojny za wiele w tym naszym podejściu nie zmienia. Jest to realizacja tych priorytetów, które przez lata przyjęliśmy i tu pewnie ta rekomendacja również dla instytucji unijnych, zbyt dużo gwałtownych ruchów na pewno nie sprzyja polityce energetycznej. Konsekwentne planowanie i realizacja tych planów to jest coś, czym byśmy się chcieli podzielić i coś, co na pewno by pomogło rynkom energetycznym w dłuższej perspektywie. Ja mam jeszcze nadzieję na jedną rzecz, jako coś, co zostanie z nami po wojnie i w Polsce też liczę na to, że wejdzie na trwałe do naszego systemu, do naszych gospodarstw domowych. Taki przykład częsty, jak jedziemy w Warszawie czy w innych miastach w zimie, widzimy otwarte okna na klatkach schodowych, a jednocześnie jak wchodzimy na tą klatkę schodową, niekoniecznie jest tam termostat, ale kaloryfer jest absolutnie na full, w pełni funkcjonuje. Mamy za mało nawyków dotyczących oszczędzania i energii, i gazu, i wody w naszym codziennym funkcjonowaniu. To na pewno nie ogranicza naszej wolności funkcjonowania, na pewno wpływa pozytywnie na rachunek. Zechcemy rozpocząć też taką intensywną kampanię opartą na konkretach, jak możemy oszczędzać energię, gaz, wodę w naszym codziennym funkcjonowaniu. Jest dużo dobrych przykładów, które słyszymy jeżdżąc w terenie, spotykając się z ludźmi, tych przykładów, które też dobrze wpływają na nasze rachunki, jak tutaj pan dyrektor mówił o obniżeniu temperatury o 2 stopnie, to oszczędzanie powinno się stać stylem życia w naszym codziennym. Mamy nadzieję, że
So it should be our everyday routine, and I hope that also in Europe it will change and we will learn the new way of living.
Dziękuję pani minister. Trochę jest mowa o tym, że to są nawyki.
Still we talk about some habits, so we all, and if we talk that we all, so I think this is a very good moment also to get you involved in the discussion. My proposal is that we can kind of take a couple of questions, 4 to 5 questions from the room, and then we can ask the panelists which question they would like to answer. So who wants to ask a question, please raise your hand. So we will give you the mic. In English or in Polish, shall I ask a question? So there is interpretation.
My name is
so
from Energetica 24. I have a question both to Minister Moskva and Director Birol. The question is, you mentioned, sir, that you are thinking of the spring that will come after this hard winter that is upcoming. And how do you think the European dependence on the Russian energy will look like during the spring? Do you think that there will be a comeback to the business as usual in terms of energy relations with Russia? And if not, what we can do to save ourselves from this perspective? And to Mr. Moskva, I would like to precise the question, because I would like to ask if you see the chance to polish the European energy policy, to put the attributes of diversification and diversification in the European climate and energy policy. Thank you.
Dziękuję za pytanie. Proszę o kolejne.
Thank you very much for your question. Polish Institute on International Affairs. I have that question to the Minister of Energy of Ukraine. So in the area of energy, what is in your opinion, so what are the main priorities for Ukraine in the area of energy? I know that this is a very general question, but I would like to ask it. And how, in your opinion, in the perspective of 4 to 5 years, the optimal mix in Ukraine could look like?
Dziękuję serdecznie. Kolejne pytanie.
The next question. There are 2 more persons raising their hands. Oków Graz Institute of New Europe. I would like to ask Mr. Tomasz Stępień, what conclusions can we draw from the explosion of the Freeport terminal in the United States, and then we extend the period during which this terminal will not be available for export, and to what extent it will affect the export of gas to Europe in the coming months or years? Thank you. And the last question, Wojciech Jakubik, Business Alert. I have three questions. The first question to Mr. President Stępień about the tempo of introducing the flowing gas port to Poland. So I know that countries are reserving these ships. So I know that the infrastructure in Poland should allow in 2025, 2026 to allow this ship to come to Poland. So is it the time to book this ship? This is the question to the President of Gas System. And the question to Madam Minister about energy savings, so very good that that was the address. So in addition to some incentives or some appeals, should there be kind of a European regulations or national regulations regarding the energy savings, because it looks different because no one wants to save. And the third question to the General Director of the International Energy Agency, I would like to ask you about the solution that is being debated in Poland. It means windfall tax. So how windfall tax can help or hurt the crisis? Thank you for the questions. So I have the Mr. Director, 6:10. Mr. Director Bureau will have to leave 6:10. So we'll start from Mr. Director Bureau. So the floor is yours. Could you please elaborate on the question about the windfall tax?
If I may, Madam Minister, I will try to answer this question. I have to leave afterwards. So first of all, about Europe. So European Union, to have such an institution is a wonderful idea. The countries who have these similar moral values, similar political values came together, ranging from the importance of rule of law to human rights, from human rights to economic principles, and always in solidarity. But I believe this winter may well be a test for European Union and these ideas. It will be a historical test. And if Europe fails to pass this test, I'm afraid it may have implications beyond the energy sector. So therefore, it is very important that Europe, as an institution, as a group of countries, respond to the crisis which is driven by Russia in a way altogether and in a united front. So this is very important for me. If we pass this test, when the spring comes, I am fully confident that the importance of Russia for Europe in terms of energy will go down substantially. And as such, Russia's role, which has been one of the cornerstones of the energy sector many, many decades, will be relegated to an ordinary producer and trying to serve to different parts of the world. But if you once have the stamp on your face as an unreliable partner, wherever you go, this stamp will be with you. Let's do not forget that. And Europe, again, I go back to 70s. Let's remember the 70s. Yes, oil price increase in 70s led to surge in inflation, economic recession, but it was also a turning point in the energy policy making. I give you two numbers. One, in the 1970s, dear colleagues, an average car in the world needed 18 liters to drive 100 kilometers, 18 liters. But after the crisis, as a response to this crisis, an average car needed only 10 liters to drive 100 kilometers, because countries around the world show a reflex reaction to the crisis and improve the energy efficiency of the cars. The second is the nuclear power. After the crisis, 70s, we have seen mushrooming nuclear power plants around the world, and today 40% of all the nuclear power plants in the world, in fact today operating, were built after the 70s crisis. So I expect in Europe and around the world, this first global energy crisis can be a turning point in the energy policy making, and we will see technologies which are cleaner and much more secure to be the part of the energy mix around the world. They will get a major acceleration when the spring comes. The second question about the windfall tax, according to our numbers, on average, the energy companies' revenues increase about 250%. Now, we call this windfall profit. Everybody has a different windfall revenues, whatever you call it. In my view, it is time that those windfall profits should be, in different ways, those financial revenues should be distributed in an appropriate way with the rest of the population. And the population should be using this money in order to help, especially the poorer segments of the population, in order to help to go through this difficult time. In some countries there are taxes, in some countries there are some incentives or regulations, but to sit back and watch that those companies with the same, more or less the same amount of energy they are producing, their revenues skyrocketing, is not something that I would recommend for any country, any government around the world. So with this, Madam Minister, I want to thank you once again to hosting us, and to my friend German, thank you very much for joining us, and we are much more stronger with you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Dziękujemy bardzo, panie dyrektorze. Dziękuję serdecznie i o podobną reakcję na pytania, które były zadane przez panią minister.
So I would like, Madam Minister, could you please elaborate on these questions? So I heard that we could choose the question, but the question of about the diversification, de-Russification. So the war in many European countries made them diversified. So we have countries who are coming like Belgium to the nuclear power, or countries who come back to coal firing, and probably the list could be here longer. So the necessity of being independent of only one source, but full diversification becomes a fact in many countries as a result of the war. As de-Russification, we've used this term for the first time during the European session on energy matters just after the war, and then saying that we have to de-Russify, that there, in the light of the war, so it was a little bit strange, and there were some voices that why, what, well, let's have a look around. So, but then everything is obvious that leaving the Russian goal, so of course it was obvious that the sanction plan has to be adopted, and we are waiting for the gas package, because Putin is de-Russifying Europe, then Europe itself. And at which council session we are repeating that there are myths, that there are contracts, that the contracts are binding, there are certain quantities in the contracts, and so on, that there is kind of the currency to settle the contracts, but still the countries, some countries think that they have signed something, that the gas will flow, and then asking for the turbine, which will have to come back from Canada, and there are countries which repeat that these are the German turbines just to take over the responsibility. So we are in a kind of a clinch situation with Putin, and we have to show the clear plan of the Russification for gas and the sanctions for gas, and this is the step that the European Union has to make, because if it's not for this, the European countries, the Russian will make the Russification of Europe, which will be the worst scenario, but this scenario is becoming step by step effect. So we are appealing to you that we have to be ready to depart from the Russian gas, and we've made this step, and as it was mentioned by Mr. President, so if it happened in our western neighbors in Germany or in any other western countries, that they would be planning to depart from the Russian gas, and half a year before cutting off the gas, so that the country could cope with it, so we can have a look. So look how Germans could cope excellently, or French. So this is something magnificent, so that we were so well prepared that after half a year, after full cut off, we are still functioning. Few words about savings. So we are such a nation that we do not like any impositions, but if we are convinced, or there are incentives, and the photovoltaic development show that if we introduce the obligation in each municipality of certain percentage, we will not make it, but there was this incentive, the savings on the bills, the financial support, the clear and short procedures. Now we have more than 1.1 million prosumers, and with gas, water, and all those resources that we should save, I think that such activities are more efficient than imposing kind of obligatory parameters, percentages, and norms for savings. And I believe that we can communicate with each other in social dialogue.
Dziękuję serdecznie i proszę
Thank
o
you.
taką reakcję naturalną pana ministra.
And Mr. Minister, the floor is yours. Could you please react to what you have said? Dziękuję.
Today the energy mix of Ukraine is 70% carbon neutral. So it consists of 55% of nuclear, 5% hydro, and something around 10% renewables. Unfortunately, due to the war, we lost a lot of renewable generation. So just to give you figures, almost 90% of wind destroyed and 50% of solar destroyed, because it's the south part of Ukraine and it's now mostly occupied by Russians. Nuclear is, of course, one of our priorities, and the previous month we signed a big agreement with Westinghouse on another new units which we're supposed to build together in the future, and it's 9 units. How we plan the mix? Of course, we want to phase out coal and the thermal generation. And in our energy strategy, we plan to increase the level of nuclear. We plan to increase the renewables up to 25% of the whole system, and the hydro. And that is really what is in our strategy. That's what we want to do, and we will do this. Because, of course, after our victory, we will rebuild all this renewables generation. And, in fact, Ukraine has a very big potential, for instance, for offshore wind. Unfortunately, now also Black Sea is restricted to make any project. But we had a number of big projects on offshore wind in Black Sea region. From the other hand, of course, what we see that it's unfortunately because of the war, so we already lost a number of thermal generation, and these losses increased also. And of course, taking into account this strategy to phase out coal and to phase out this thermal generation on coal, we now are thinking on how to substitute it more quickly than we planned, because it's planned. The energy strategy was to 2030, 2032. And now we are thinking on how to not to rebuild this already destroyed thermal generation and to substitute it by renewables and by hydro facility. And of course, that is storages, of course, that is hydrogen, that is a new era for Ukrainian energy, and we're already working on this. We have one project on storages, 200 megawatt already, which is started. And of course, the hydrogen. We have a strategy. We in communication with our European colleagues, and Ukraine is one of the main countries before the war. It was, and I'm sure that it will be after our victory, in the European strategy for hydrogen. So Europe is expected something around 10 gigawatts using hydrogen from Ukraine. Thank you.
Dziękuję bardzo. I panie prezesie, prośba o...
Mr. President, your reaction, please. Thank you very much. I had two questions. So let's start with Freeport Terminal. I don't feel completely competent to answer this question. Indeed, Freeport capital there has been an accident, and we know only the public reports, and it's now being repaired, and now it's being audited in technical audit. So it's not loading the ships that used to be loaded at the terminal to sail in different directions. This is not the only terminal in the United States in operation. And in addition to Freeport, there are many advanced investments in terminals that will be commissioned, and Poland has contracted some supplies. So I don't feel fully competent to refer to the type of the accident, also numbers. And as regards the ship, the situation is that before the war, before the aggression of Russia in Ukraine, we could see a very large growth of the rate of demand for natural gas in Poland. And at that time, since gas system updates its 10 or 15-year forecast and action plan for its development every 2 years, so then we found out that it was necessary to build an installation for 2027, 28, and this to provide us with a safe buffer to stabilize the situation. The situation that we have in place now, like growing growth of gas prices, as a result, the consumption in Poland has fallen. And as a result, we don't need that ship so quickly, because such installations are very needed in Germany. In our case, haste is not really called for, because as regards infrastructure, we are ready for the situation. And Germany is a completely different situation, because their market is 4 times as large, and for many years they have been deepening their dependence on Russian gas, so they are in a much worse situation. So they're pumping in very much money in order to acquire such ships. It's not good sense, doesn't make good sense to compete for these ships. Just keep to the deadlines that we have adopted. So today's panel, ladies and gentlemen, which was on the day that was so important for the Ukrainian energy sector. Here we summed up what happened over the last years and what happened because of the crisis. And also this panel sketched out what will happen in the future. And I would like to call this time ahead of us the time of huge work and huge challenges on the part of institutions, for the countries. And it is important to fight for this future. And we should state clearly, it will not be easy. There will be a lot of things that we'll have to give up. There will be a lot of sweat, but there's a plan and there's hope that we can implement the future. And as many persons repeated here today, I wish all of us that spring comes after winter and that spring is as beautiful as ever. Thank you very much for your presentation, participation. Thank you to the audience, and you are welcome to a short treat.